Hi, my name is Simra, and this is my second reflection for the TED class, and my reflection is about Jimmy Nelson's TED Talk. His talk was titled Before They Pass Away, and it tells Jimmy Nelson's story of how he met these right-brained people and how their lifestyle offers lessons that we must learn. My first impressions of Jimmy Nelson's talk was that he's a good storyteller. From his accent to his opening story of attracting the reindeer, Nelson immediately captures his audience's attention. I wanted to address that his first story was a story of vulnerability. He presents this embarrassing story to his audience, and it was a perfect anecdote to open up with because it correlates with his ideas about vulnerability. It sets the tone of the talk by addressing both humor and deeper meaning behind the story. So, the first lesson Jimmy Nelson presents is judgment. He states, "Be careful when you look and judge somebody. It's often different." This lesson starts from his childhood, after which his hair fell out because of alopecia totalis. Jimmy Nelson brings up this very important idea, a very important point when he says, "I didn't change. I was the same person. But how people started to treat me changed. That was a radical experience. To realize how you look can influence everything." Jimmy Nelson tells us that it's a personal journey, and Nelson's journey takes him to Kenya. He meets the Samburu warriors, and with first glance, Nelson dismisses the judgmental thoughts that occur in the audience's mind by saying, "They spend half the day running around looking in mirrors, playing with their beads, their hair, and their skirts, but on Sundays they go out and kill lions with their bare hands." Jimmy Nelson, I think, brings this very relatable problem of not fitting in because of looks and applies it to his own story of a personal journey that starts from his childhood to meeting the Samburu warriors. This overall idea that Nelson states is, look closer. We are very comfortable with our prejudices and with our judgments. Look close because you never know what's around the corner. Other things can be very different than what they seem to be. This is so incredibly important for people to know because judgment is so prominent within our lives and our society. I think that Nelson's idea about how we need to look closer is a significant lesson we all need to learn. The second lesson Nelson brings forth is choice. He says, "We all have a choice, no matter what it is." This lesson stems from the experience with the Chukchi, the last Russian Eskimos. It took Jimmy Nelson and his team weeks to find them because once Nelson found them, he describes incredible experience when he said, "They brought us in and within seconds we were a part of their community." But the lesson comes from when Nelson asked as to why the Chukchi were in the middle of nowhere. They said, we chose to be here." The Chukchi were taken to the city, but they had become sad not seeing their children and the old people. They realized they had a choice and went back to where they were happy. Nelson tells this lesson he had learned from the Chukchi and states, "Even at the edge of the world, if you dare feel yourself, if you dare feel the environment you live in, if you dare feel one another, you'll know what will make you happy and you'll have a choice." The final lesson Jimmy Nelson relates is vulnerability. Nelson states, "I genuinely believe by being truly vulnerable, by truly feeling who you are and letting go wherever you are on the planet, you can communicate." This lesson comes from the story of when Nelson had traveled to Mongolia, the Altai Mountains. Nelson was in the process of taking a photo when he took off his gloves and his fingers had stuck to the camera. Nelson had to rip his fingers off of the camera, which caused him much pain. While Nelson was sobbing, these two women wrapped him with a blanket and rocked him while singing. This story has significant meaning behind it. First, I believe that this is a moment when his heart opened up and allowed him to understand these lessons the right-brained people were trying to teach him. And second, Nelson was conveying the idea that connection occurs through sensitivity and vulnerability. When he said, by being vulnerable, by letting go, by being valuable, you can connect with people on any level. All of these lessons have their importance individually, but the idea I believe Nelson was trying to convey was more than just applying these specific lessons to our daily lives. Nelson stated, "With these lessons, we have to wake up. We have to stay documenting these cultures very, very quickly because they are going to disappear. As soon as they disappear, we will lose something which is very, very important to us. It's our authenticity. It's where we came from. It's our origins." Nelson brings his final idea of embracing the lifestyle and ideas that the right-brained indigenous people bring. It's completely different than the judgmental, forced, and closed-off lives we live. Nelson stated that this documentation should not be held off because they will change, they will evolve, so we can't stop them. While their lives will change, Nelson said, it's our duty to start this conversation as a conversation of, as he stated, what we can learn from you and your purity and your authenticity and your beauty. In Nelson's final moments of his speech, he addresses the reason of why he brought this idea to light by saying we need to readdress a balance which I feel we have lost. Nelson's speech is so incredibly crucial for people today to hear. Many people in the world are so caught up by the strictly rigid lives that they live and don't take a moment to notice these cultures. He addresses the problem that we don't even regard as problems. We definitely need to connect with this other side of our brains and understand and learn from these cultures before they pass away. Thank you.